Today's podcast is brought to you by attorney Nicholas Rosenberg. He's a certified specialist in criminal law. Attorney Rosenberg is based in downtown Los Angeles. Rosenberg specializes in defending all strike offenses, firearm, and gang allegations, sales of controlled substances. For the latest updates, go to @Attorney Rosenberg on Instagram and TikTok. Attorney Rosenberg is punching back on criminal cases. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Gutter Phenom. Gutter Phenom is a lifestyle brand that is dedicated to supporting and inspiring individuals who are determined to achieve their dreams. We believe that no matter where you come from or what you've been through, with hard work and dedication, anything is possible. A portion of proceeds are donated to organizations that provide vocational training for parolees and scholarships for those in need of drug and alcohol treatment. Visit gutterphenom.com and use the exclusive code HOODSTOCKS20 to receive 20% off your order today. Gutter Phenom.
So welcome everyone, this is Hood Stocks. I am your host for today, Eden Alex Enamorado. And today we have a very important podcast regarding a street vendor. And as you all know, there's been a lot of attacks on street vendors for the past 3 years, a big influx of attacks. And this one is definitely a special one. We will be doing this segment in Spanish. Our second part will be in English. And just to let you know, if you go on your top right-hand corner of your settings, while you're watching this video, you can hit for English subtitles. Once you hit the settings button, you'll go under captions. So you'll press captions, and then from there, the third step would be to hit auto translate to English. Obviously, you could choose any other language you want. So vamos a comenzar hoy. Bienvenida, Adriana. Nosotros aquí hacemos entrevistas cada 2 semanas con vendedores ambulantes. Y si quiere dar una introducción un poquito sobre usted, puede decir su nombre, de qué ciudad vende ahorita.
Mi nombre es Adriana Flores. Yo estoy vendiendo en la ciudad de Harbor City. Mi ocupación es vender fruta en la calle. Soy parte de la comunidad de los vendedores ambulantes.
Y yo sé que esta va a ser un poco emocional. El año pasado, pues usted también es vendedor ambulante, pero su esposo en agosto del año 2022 falleció en la ciudad de Gardena. ¿Cuántos años tiene usted vendiendo?
Yo tengo 10 años vendiendo fruta.
10 años.
Igualmente mi esposo tiene el mismo tiempo.
¿Y cuál fue la inspiración de ustedes dos en vender en Los Ángeles aquí?
Pues siempre venimos con el sueño de tener algo propio, de trabajar para, pues, con un sueño de poder independizarse, de poder decir, esto yo lo trabajé con mi sudor. Más que nada para ofrecerle a nuestros hijos una vida mejor, algo que a lo mejor nosotros en nuestro tiempo, en nuestra niñez no tuvimos.
¿Quiere tomar un poquito de break? ¿Podemos seguir en unos 5 minutos? ¿Quisiera tomar un break? ¿Está bien? Ok. Le voy a poner su micrófono un poquito más cerquita aquí. Una pregunta, ¿usted dónde nació?
Yo nací en el estado de Puebla.
Okay.
Y crecí en el estado de Tepeaca. También pertenece al estado de Tepeaca, Puebla.
Okay.
Llegué a vivir ahí cuando yo tenía 4 años. Y pues a gusto, uno disfruta, aunque sea humildemente, pero disfrutas a la familia, disfrutas algo que lamentablemente cuando decidimos emigrar a este país, pues tenemos que dejar atrás.
¿Y cuántos años tenía usted cuando se vino para Estados Unidos?
20 años.
20 años. Entonces, ¿20 años vivió en Puebla?
Sí.
En Puebla. Yo he notado, como yo estoy ahí con muchos vendedores ambulantes, he notado que muchos vendedores ambulantes son de Puebla. ¿Hay una razón, hay algo allí en esa ciudad de que algo especial sobre vendiendo afuera?
se puede decir que parte de mi experiencia, mi mamá siempre le ha gustado el comercio. Le gusta mi mamá tener una tienda, entonces siempre ha estado involucrada en el negocio. Entonces yo pienso que pues la pena ya no la traemos y pues todos venimos con un sueño, sueño de pues de echarle ganas y conseguir lo que uno viene a buscar este país, que es salir adelante, darle a nuestros papás pues, lo más que podamos darles.
¿Y en la ciudad de Puebla hay vendedores ambulantes? ¿Hay muchos ahí?
Ya,
¿Sí?
demasiados.
¿En qué parte, digamos, de la ciudad de Puebla hay un lugar?
Sí hay, no recuerdo ahorita por qué calles, pero sí hay afuera de lo que es Plaza Dorada, de lo que es las tiendas grandes como Suburbia, todas esas tiendas hay gente que está vendiendo esquites, chicharrines, de todo hay ahí.
Y usted se vino aquí a los 20 años y eso es cuando comenzó a vender aquí. ¿Fue automáticamente algo rápido o ya vendía allá en Puebla?
Yo allá me dedicaba a atender el negocio de mi mamá, que era una tienda. Entonces aquí vine a experimentar, a trabajar en la fruta, a trabajar obviamente para alguien más, aprender, echarle ganas. Y pues cuando conocí a mi esposo tomamos la decisión de volar nosotros dos solos.
Oh, ok. Para acá.
Ajá.
Oh, wow. ¿Y cuál fue la que le inspiró a usted, digamos, a vender fruta específicamente?
Lamentablemente cuando yo llegué a este país, yo fui al mercadito de Los Ángeles a pedir trabajo. Entonces me decían, ¿habla inglés? No, pues no hablo inglés. Entonces le batallé un poquito para encontrar trabajo. Entonces cuando se me presentó la oportunidad de vender fruta en la calle, yo dije, claro, o sea, no ocupo el inglés.
Sí.
Lo básico lo sé. Entonces pues de ahí empecé a la fruta.
Y a vender. ¿Y a ese momento en su vida ya conocía a Elías o todavía no?
No, todavía no.
Todavía no, ok. Entonces usted comenzó a vender aquí. ¿En qué ciudad fue la primera donde usted comenzó a vender fruta aquí?
Por donde está el estadio de los Clippers. Afuera.
Okay.
No sé qué lugar.
¿El nuevo o el viejito?
El viejito.
¿El Staples Center?
Ya. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Ok. So, cerquita de la Figueroa, entonces. Oh, wow. ¿Y cómo le fue ahí al principio a vender ahí?
Yo estaba muy a gusto porque con el muchacho que yo llegué a aprender, el que me enseñó lo que sé de la fruta, era muy amable, su esposa también. Entonces, me gustó 1 o 2 días y después me dice, ¿estás lista? Claro. Y pues de ahí le seguí y me gustó porque pues miraba gente nueva todos los días, platicaba con una persona una cosa, con otra persona otra cosa. Entonces me sentí a gusto y pues sigo, ahora sí que ahorita sigo sola, pero sigo en lo mismo.
¿Cómo la trataba la ciudad? Digamos, ¿tenía problemas usted con la ciudad, digamos, tratando de cerrarle su negocio en la calle en esos años?
No.
¿No?
No.
Y digamos, la gente, ¿cómo la trataba en la ciudad?
La gente era muy sociable, muy amable. Por lo regular en esta área donde yo estaba vendiendo era mucho latino. Estaba bien, la gente era muy respetuosa.
Y después de ahí es cuando ¿cómo conoció a su esposo Elías?
De ahí yo dejé de trabajar ahí y fui a trabajar con otras personas sobre lo que es la Whittier y la Belden. Y ahí estuve trabajando un tiempo. Entonces él llegó a trabajar en tiempo de frío, que viene siendo noviembre, diciembre, enero. Ahí fue donde yo lo conocí a él. Pues él me habló, ya sabe. Decidimos darnos la oportunidad de conocernos. De ahí tomamos la decisión de vivir juntos y pues empezar a salir adelante los dos.
Qué bueno. Y él también vendía.
Sí, él vendía fruta con un señor.
Un señor. ¿Y Elías de qué parte era él?
También pertenece al estado de Puebla, nada más que es un poquito más hacia el sur de donde yo soy.
Okay. Y yo sé que él falleció a los 35 años, estaba joven, entonces, ¿cómo era para ustedes dos jóvenes vendiendo fruta en la calle comparado a regularmente los vendedores ambulantes tienen un poco más de edad? ¿Cómo era eso para ustedes siendo nuevos aquí en este país, siendo jóvenes todavía tan joven? ¿Cómo era para eso, para esa experiencia para usted? Porque lo que yo sé que muchos vendedores ambulantes jóvenes le dan mucho carrilla. Los demás vendedores ambulantes a veces dicen, no, no saben lo que están haciendo y todo eso. ¿Cómo fue esa experiencia para ustedes?
Pues nosotros siempre nos tratamos de mantener alejados de gente negativa. Nos enfocamos en lo que nosotros dos queríamos juntos.
Sí.
Entonces, él y yo crecimos en el negocio, le echamos ganas. Cuando yo lo conocí a él tenía una camioneta que se había comprado, entonces ya teníamos la herramienta principal. Entonces ya de ahí continuamos y pues sin saber nada uno del otro, funcionó.
Wow, qué bueno. Antes de que pasó esta situación en agosto, usted personalmente, ¿había pasado, digamos, por un tipo de atento de robo, digamos, un tipo de violencia antes de lo que había pasado?
Sí, llegaron unos morenos a quererme quitar mi dinero. Yo vendo en la ciudad de Harbor City y llegaron a quitarme mi dinero, pero pues no pudieron porque se puede decir que yo quise tratar de defenderme, entonces le jalé la camisa al señor.
Wow.
Y pues lamentablemente se la rompí y ya el ratero me fue a traer a la policía y me dijo que yo le había quitado su dinero. Entonces el oficial me interrogó y me dijo, ¿tú le quitaste el dinero al joven? Le dije, no. Y me dice, ok, dice, vamos a revisar todo y si te encuentro el dinero, pues vas a tener problemas. Entonces él revisó todo y me dijo que pues que no tenía nada, o sea, no, lo que yo tenía era mío y pues él no me iba a quitar nada. Entonces él simplemente se fue y ya no se hizo nada.
Entonces el que le trató de robar, trató de dar la otra historia, cambiar la historia, que
Exacto.
Él fue la víctima. Wow.
Exacto.
No, wow. ¿Y esa fue la única situación que había pasado usted por eso?
Sí.
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 Además de eso, la gente la trata bien así y todo. Y la ciudad tampoco no la molestaba a cerrarla.
Después de eso ya empezaron a ponerse un poquito más estrictos los inspectores. Entonces ya empezaron a exigirnos un refrigerador, un lavamanos. Las reglas empezaron a ser un poquito más duras para nosotros. Entonces decidimos hacer algo más grande donde dejaran de molestarnos. Y así fue como nosotros construimos con esfuerzo nuestra primera lonchera. Y pues así fue como dejaron de molestarnos. Llegan, revisan, checan temperaturas. Y estoy orgullosa porque desde que la hemos tenido, siempre he tenido la letra A. Nunca he tenido ningún problema con ellos.
Y eso es una pregunta que le iba a hacer. ¿Es duro obtener un permiso?
No, súper sencillo.
¿Sí?
Sí.
¿Dónde fue a usted a agarrar el permiso?
Yo fui a Baldwin Park.
Ajá.
Ahí está el departamento de salud.
¿De salud?
Ajá. Lo único que necesita uno es pues una matrícula.
Okay.
Explicarles a ellos qué es lo que uno va a vender en la calle y ya ellos te dicen, ok, ve con la persona que te va a hacer tu herramienta, tramita tus planos y me los traes y si todo está en regla te los aprobamos y comienza. Es algo muy sencillo.
¿Y eso era permiso para una carreta o una lonchera?
Pues es una lonchera. Nosotros ya teníamos tiempo que habíamos comprado la camioneta. Entonces nosotros lo único que hicimos fue adherir como un cajón arriba de una pickup.
Okay.
Y pues estamos a gusto.
¿Y antes de tener ese camión, ustedes vendían con carreta o
con carritos? Sí, en la calle.
¿Y para obtener permisos para esos era fácil o también era...?
Es fácil, nada más que las reglas que te pone Health Department son muy se podría decir, tontas, porque te dan el permiso, pero no te explican que no puedes vender sandía ni melón, que no puedes estar picando en la calle. Entonces, claro que tú te pones a vender, y entonces llegan ellos y dicen, oh, pero no tienes que tener sandía y melón, y te tiran todo, o sea, prácticamente te quedas con tu carrito porque tiene permiso, pero pues te tiran tu mercancía.
Lo que yo me pregunto también es esto, de que por qué las ciudades a veces, digamos, usted cuando va al parque hay, no sé cómo decir grill en español, pero los hornos para cocinar una carne asada y todo, a veces está bien sucio y todo eso. Ellos no tienen problema de que alguien cocine en un parque y regalárselo a cualquiera, se pueden enfermar o lo que sea, no les importa. Pero cuando están cortando fruta, la hacen de problema. No sé si yo hasta a veces me pongo a pensar si los vendedores comienzan a decir que no lo están vendiendo, que la están regalando, como si estuvieran en el parque, pues no. Yo no entiendo que porque es una hipocresía, ¿no? ¿Qué es lo que usted piensa, digamos, del Departamento de Salud? ¿Usted cree que ellos están ahí para apoyar a gente, para que sobresalgan de sus vidas o están ahí para enfadar, digamos?
Se podría decir que están ahí para ayudar a gente, pero al mismo tiempo te dan las alas para que vueles y te las cortan a medio vuelo. O sea, te dan los ánimos, el arranque para que digan, ok, vete, ponte y vendes.
Sí.
Y cuando yo llegue te voy a quitar las alas. O sea, te las voy a cortar y ya no vas a volar.
Dime un detalle específico, digamos, de eso.
Okay. Yo tuve una experiencia recién cuando acababa de sacar mi carro de fruta. Llegó una inspectora americana. Me dijo que no tenía derecho a picar. Entonces corteteó mi fruta y la echó a la basura. Y todavía sacó la tierra del jardín y la puso en la fruta. Y me dijo, así es como no la tienes que sacar porque ya está sucia. Entonces yo me dirigí con el señor Martínez, que es el superior de ellos, y le dije, lo que ella hizo fue humillarme. Porque a lo mejor yo reconozco que lo estoy haciendo mal, que ya me lo dijeron 1, 2 veces, a lo mejor hasta 3 veces. Digo, pero el hecho de sacar la tierra del jardín y ponérsela a mi fruta como para que yo no la saque de la basura donde ella ya la puso, eso es humillarme.
Entonces le tiraron la comida y después se aseguraron que no le iba a sacar de la basura.
Que no la fuera a sacar.
Y ahorita está pasando mucho Pasó una nueva ley, 972, de que decriminalizó más vendiendo en la calle, pero yo sigo viendo que le siguen quitando la comida a muchos.
Yo hace como semana y media tuve plática con un amigo y él me dijo, oh, pero qué padre, dice, Salubridad ya les va a dar permisos. Le digo, lo que usted no sabe es que Salubridad te da el permiso y te pone trabas, o sea, te pone trabas más complicadas, más difíciles de que pueda uno, se podría decir, seguir. O sea, que te dicen, no, pues ya hay permiso para esto. Y las trabas son mucho más grandes. O sea, ahora sí que las reglas de ellos se hacen más difíciles para nosotros.
¿Qué piensa usted de esto? Que mucha gente está diciendo, antes del show, usted y yo estábamos hablando sobre el tiktokero que se llama Randy González, que murió de cáncer de colon. Cáncer de colon, los números han doblado, han subido extremadamente. Y muchos dicen que es por la comida procesada. También la comida del microwave, que es mala para la salud. Cuando el Departamento de Salud se enfoca mucho en los vendedores ambulantes que venden fruta, algo saludable, ¿qué es lo que piensa usted que no se están enfocando en todos los químicos que están vendiendo en las tiendas como de Walmart o Superior? ¿Qué es lo que piensa usted sobre eso de que están dejando cosas que nos están matando?
Pues yo pienso que están mal. Mi punto de vista es, por ejemplo, como en la carne. O sea, vas a la tienda y compras carne y la carne no sé cuántos días tiene empaquetada. A mí me ha tocado mirar carne que ya alrededor, por ejemplo, un bistec está verde. En una tienda y ahí está, o sea, yo he pasado y he mirado la fruta que tiene, por ejemplo, Norgate, Fruitfulness, la fruta ya está picada de muchos días, la sandía ya está toda aguada en el tazón y la gente la compra, o sea, vale $12, $15 y la gente la compra y llega a los negocios pequeños y vale 6, en mi caso, vale 6, 8 y $10 y la gente dice, oh no, está muy caro. Entonces, la gente prefiere comer la porquería que venden las tiendas a enfocarse en decir, oh, mira, esto está fresco. Ayer vine y la fruta la terminó y ahorita es fresco, sino que la gente se enfoca más en decir, oh, no, o sea, como en regatearle a las empresas pequeñas. Y yo pienso que no está bien hacer eso, porque tienen que apoyar a los negocios pequeños.
Sí, en Nueva York sacaron números de las personas que terminan en el hospital por algo que se comieron. Dicen que la mayoría es de la casa y de restaurantes. Lo compararon a vendedores ambulantes por capital. Dice que no es incomparable, que la mayoría, mucha gente no termina en el hospital por comer en la calle. Y estoy esperando yo he tenido juntas con el Departamento de Salud y les pregunté, enséñenme que la gente que está terminando en el hospital es por los vendedores ambulantes. Y la señora se quedó callada. Y era la directora. ¿Qué piensa usted sobre esos números de Nueva York? ¿Usted está sorprendida de que de los números de que salió más de restaurantes y de la casa?
Pues sí, estoy sorprendida, pero no me extraña porque uno va a comer al restaurante y no sabe si es fresco, porque nos estamos llevando a la boca. Tampoco sabes si el que te va a traer tu plato no te lo escupió.
Sí,
o le caíste gorda y se rascó el culo y te escalentó las tortillas.
Sí, sí. No, sí.
La verdad, a veces tenemos un tip de que nos metemos el dedo en la nariz porque nos da comezón y dice, ese güey me cae gordo, vino el otro día, pues le voy a calentar su hamburguesa y así se la va a comer. Entonces, uno va y se sienta y estás esperando a que te traigan porquería a tu mesa.
O también en la casa cuando...
A mí me pasó la semana pasada en el Carl Jr. Mi niña me dice, Mam, yo quiero una hamburguesa. Ok. Fui y le compré una hamburguesa y le agarré sus papas. Y el chavo cobró dinero y fue y agarró las papas. Le dije, esas papas no las quiero. ¿Por qué no las quieres? Le digo, porque estás cobrando y las papas las agarraste con tus manos. Y me dice, ¿y qué quieres que haga? Le digo, o me las cambias o regresa mi dinero. Estaba yo ahí, si yo me hubiera percatado de eso, mi niña hubiera comido unas papas, quién sabe con cuántos microbios.
Oh, sí, no, sí.
Pero eso el Departamento de Salud no lo ve, o sea.
Sí, porque ellos no están ahí todo el tiempo. Ellos ¿cuánto? ¿Una vez al mes van a inspeccionar?
Van cada 3, 4 meses.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, por eso hay muchos videos virales de empleados de Domino's, de McDonald's, escupiendo.
A mi hija le mostré uno de un McDonald's.
¿Viste su video?
Ya, le mostré un video de... Ella le encanta comer chicken McNuggets. Y le dije, mira, te voy a enseñar para que ya no comas chicken McNuggets. Y me dice, ok, ma. Ella le enseña y está una señora americana y se está rascando el trasero. Y le está haciendo las papas. Le digo, mira, qué buenas papas te chingas del McDonald's.
Wow. And you ate them, huh, Sammy? Sí. Una cosa que le quería preguntar, quería regresar al tema de Elías. ¿Cómo era él? ¿Cómo le puede usted describir su personalidad a Elías?
Él era una persona muy alejada de los problemas. No le gustaban los problemas. Él siempre se preocupó por darle todo lo que pudo a su mamá. Porque lamentablemente el señor Florentino Rosas se desatendió de su esposa y de sus hijos. Entonces mi esposo, él constantemente le mandaba dinero, la frecuentaba a mi suegra. Entonces pues era muy responsable. Quería y adoraba mucho a su hija, en especial a mí siempre me dio mi lugar, siempre me respetó, nunca me habló con una mala palabra. Entonces yo pienso que el que le haya pasado lo que le pasó es injusto, porque hay tanta basura en el mundo que no merece estar aquí. Entonces, pues no quiero decir que porque a él, pero yo pienso que él no merecía terminar de la forma que terminó. Y pues me gustaría también al mismo tiempo pedir que se haga justicia, que los agarren, porque pues No es justo. Él solo lo único que hacía era trabajar, preocuparse por mi hija y por mí. Entonces, no sé, me gustaría que me escucharan, que escucharan a mi hija. Porque, pues, como me comentaste hace un momento, del rapero que murió de cáncer de colon. Entonces, uno se queda así como, ¿qué onda? O sea, las autoridades no van a hacer su trabajo. ¿A quién puede uno acogerse si ellos no nos apoyan, si ellos no nos ayudan a que se haga justicia?
Y no han encontrado las personas, ¿verdad?
No,
Y
todavía no.
los detectives y los del departamento de los sheriffs, ¿qué tipo de experiencia ha tenido usted con ellos después de esta tragedia?
Pues la única respuesta que he recibido es que van avanzando, que tienen información del exterior y es todo. No he tenido más otra respuesta más alentadora para mí.
¿En su corazón usted piensa que ellos están haciendo un buen trabajo o usted piensa que están siendo negligentes ellos en este caso?
Yo pienso que está siendo negligentes por el hecho de que mi esposo era latino. Están desenfocando lo que tienen que hacer, lo que realmente tienen que hacer.
Sí, parece que no lo están poniendo en un caso de prioridad.
Exacto.
También de la experiencia que yo, después que los conocí a ustedes, después de que tristemente falleció Elías, un tema quería tocar que también tuvo usted problemas con la familia de él sobre el plan del funeral. ¿Usted tiene, digamos, un tipo de consejo a alguien, digamos, para que no pase lo mismo? O básicamente, pues lo que le pasó, pues usted me dice que él no tenía una relación buena con su papá, ya tenía años sin hablar con él, pero él tomó control, ¿verdad? ¿Me puede contar lo que pasó?
Ya, ellos, el Señor nunca estuvo para mi esposo. Yo pienso que el tiempo que nosotros estuvimos juntos, el Señor solo tuve la oportunidad de tratarlo. Si al caso, una semana y media. Trabajó unos días con mi esposo, pero pues a mi esposo no le gustó cómo desempeñó el Señor. Y pues sí, lamentablemente el Señor tomó y le dieron mucha prioridad. O sea, le entregaron el cuerpo de su hijo. Yo me enteré días antes de cuándo iba a ser el servicio de mi esposo. Entonces, yo pienso que eso no está bien. O sea, porque mi esposo me eligió a mí como su compañera de vida. Nosotros platicábamos mucho de la vejez, de lo que íbamos a hacer juntos. Entonces, pues sí, el Señor tomó el cuerpo de él. Incluso cuando mi hija miró a su papá en el ataúd, ella me dijo, mam, ¿por qué mi papi está vestido así? Mi papá no se vestía así. Mami, ¿por qué mi papá tiene un sombrero? Mi papá no usaba sombrero. Le digo, yo sé, hija, le digo, pero ya tu papi está descansando. Y yo me enteré por una vecina, una amiga mía, de que el cuerpo de mi esposo había llegado a México y ya lo habían enterrado. Wow. Entonces lo que yo hice fue mandar a mi hermana y decirle, oye, puedes ir al panteón. Me chismearon que mi esposo ya está allá y que ya fue enterrado. Entonces sí, efectivamente ella fue, sacó unas fotos y me las mandó. Y sí, o sea, él estaba ahí. Se me hace injusto de parte del Señor, no me extraña, pero de parte de ellas, de parte de mis cuñadas, el que no me hayan tomado en cuenta, no por mí, sí, porque yo tengo que echarle ganas y tengo que salir adelante, sino porque ellas sabían que mi hija está de por medio. Entonces yo pienso que hacer a un lado los problemas que tengamos el Señor y yo, o que yo haya tenido con mi esposo, lo primero es decir, ¿sabes qué? Mira, cuñada, ya está aquí, ya llegó mi hermano, lo vamos a enterrar, y es todo. Pero yo me tuve que enterar por terceras personas.
Wow. Qué triste, ¿verdad? Que a veces la familia, parte de la familia no les importa cuando alguien está vivo, pero ya cuando fallece salen de nada, ¿verdad? Y tratan de tomar control.
Hace tiempo yo tengo un cliente que se juntó con su pareja y me llegó a platicar que tienen un baby.
Sí.
Y yo le digo, ¿sabes qué? Le digo, te voy a dar un consejo y por experiencia mía, espero y lo tomes en cuenta. Digo, cásate y dale su lugar a tu pareja. ¿Por qué? Entonces yo le platiqué, fíjate que mi esposo falleció. Se sorprendió porque conocía a mi esposo. Y le digo, entonces a mí y a mi hija nos hicieron a un lado. A mí y a mi hija prácticamente ahorita no existimos para ellos. Le digo, cásate y dale su lugar. Le digo, uno anda siempre en la calle, te puede pasar algo. Y después lamentablemente pues a nosotras las compañeras, las esposas, los hacen a un lado y no nos toman en cuenta para nada.
Qué triste. Entonces sería bueno... ¿Usted cree que llenar un will, llenar un papel de notario, verdad? Para saber quién se va a ser encargado sí.
Por ejemplo, como ahorita digamos, las parejas que están en unión libre, el consejo que yo les doy es hacer un papel a puño y letra.
Sí.
De viceversa, la mujer, el hombre, decir, ¿sabes qué? Mira, en caso de que a mí me pase algo, yo fulano de tal, en pleno uso de mis facultades mentales, mi esposa es la responsable de todo.
Sí. Sí, es buen consejo. Como hablamos ahorita sobre el tiktokero de TikTok, Enki Boy se llamaban ellos. Ellos están pasando por la misma cosa ahorita. Randy González falleció y aparentemente no estaba casado legalmente, aunque él sí la miraba como su esposa. Y ahora la familia de Randy, su hermano y su mamá tomaron 100% control, no solamente del funeral, pero hasta las cosas de él. Creo que es una injusticia y sí la entiendo. Entonces, I just want to give she's saying that she wants to give advice regarding if you're with a partner and you're not legally married, to sign a will because, sadly, God forbid something happens, you might not have control because what happened with her husband is that his long lost dad came out of nowhere and just took total control of the body, and she had to go through something really unfair, and now she can't visit her husband because he got buried in Mexico. Tiene un mensaje final, digamos, yo sé que ahorita voy a platicar también sobre una campaña que la gente que está escuchando puede ayudar en mandar mensajes a Sheriff Luna, que es nuevo, que está encargado ahora en reemplazo de Alex Villanueva, mandarle correos electrónicos, llamar a su oficina, es muy simple. Si usted va a Google, pone la oficina de Sheriff Luna, mandar mensajes en encontrar justicia para Severino Elías Gutiérrez, que falleció en agosto 2022. ¿Algún mensaje usted quisiera mandar al mundo en cualquier tipo de mensaje?
Pues yo pienso que todos merecemos respeto aquí en cualquier lugar. Y pues el mensaje sería para el Sheriff Luna. Pues me gustaría que se haga justicia por mi esposo. Yo ahorita es por ahora sí que lo que vivo y lo que pido. O sea, que se haga justicia por él. Porque pues yo pienso que merecía respeto. Lamentablemente yo estaba platicando con mi hija hoy. Ya son 6 meses desde que él no está con nosotros. Ha sido difícil, pero le echo ganas por ella. Nuestros hijos yo pienso que son el pilar mío y de cualquier mamá. Uno va a hacer todo por ellos y pues más que nada yo quiero que se haga justicia por mi esposo.
Y quiero repetir otra vez, 6 meses y ningún tipo de información.
No,
nada.
Ninguno.
Zero leads, zero anything.
Incluso la terapia de mi hija fue dada a partir después del cumpleaños número 35 de mi esposo. Porque mi hija salió diciendo que no han hecho nada por él. A partir de ese momento la terapia fue dada para ella, dada para mí también. Entonces, pues pedimos justicia y si no, pues vamos a tener que hacer más ruido.
Sí.
Para que seamos escuchados.
Definitivamente. Yo sé que habíamos hablado, no sé si quisiera decir unas palabras a Sammy. No tiene que decir nada, no sé si...
Mom.
So this is Sammy. She's 7 years old. Sammy, you want to do it in, you want to talk in English, Spanish? What would you like? What's your preference?
Mirando hacia allá.
Can you hear you can hear me good? Yeah. Spanish or English? Because you speak both really good.
En español.
En español. So, Sammy, ¿cuántos años tienes?
7.
7. ¿Y te gusta la escuela?
Sí.
Sí. ¿Qué es tu show más favorito? ¿Qué es tu show favorito?
Bluey.
Louis. Tú tienes un mensaje que quieres decirle al mundo porque mucha gente aquí en Hoodstocks te está escuchando ahorita. Tienes una oportunidad de darle un mensaje al mundo. Mucha gente te está viendo ahorita.
Sí, claro. Quiero que se haga justicia. Si no hacen nada los policías, por mi gusto, le dijera a mi mamá que demandemos los policías porque no hacen nada.
No sé nada. Pues eso es lo que ella quiere. So, apoyen, por favor, a Sammy, que tiene 7 años y quiere justicia para su papá. Y tu papá era muy buena persona, ¿verdad? ¿Qué es lo que recuerdas tú, algo bonito de tu papá?
Él no peleaba por algo. Mi papá era un señor muy bueno y sin problemas.
Sin problemas. Y yo he visto videos, siempre jugaba contigo, ¿verdad? Siempre le gustaba jugar contigo. Pues yo sé que fue una tragedia, nosotros todos lo sentimos. Tienes una familia muy grande que te apoya. Siempre vamos a estar aquí por toda tu vida. Puedes contar en nosotros como un equipo, you know? Y vamos a pelear. Y no vamos a rendir. Y yo te prometo que vamos a agarrar justicia para tu papá. Ese es solo el principio. Ahora hay un nuevo sheriff en esta ciudad que está encargado porque el otro no hacía su trabajo muy bueno. So, vamos a agarrar los oídos a Sheriff Luna que mande a gente para agarrar justicia. Yo te prometo que los malos que hicieron esto van a pagar. Y tu papá siempre va a vivir aquí en tu corazón y él te está viendo. Ok, te lo prometo. Y muchas gracias, Sammy. Muchas gracias, Adriana. Se los agradezco mucho.
También quería hacerles saber
Sí.
algo. Imagínense ustedes cómo estaba de involucrado el papá de mi esposo, que cuando el señor se enteró que mi esposo había fallecido, tuvo el descaro de preguntarme, ¿y la niña está bautizada?
Wow.
Yo fui a sacar el acta de defunción de mi esposo y digamos que tanta fue su orgullo. Yo no sé, me gustaría tratar de entender qué fue lo que le pasó por su cabeza al señor, que en el acta de defunción de mi esposo no puso la dirección donde nosotros vivimos.
Wow.
Entonces, yo tengo la matrícula de mi esposo, me la entregó el hospital después de casi a finales de septiembre. Entonces, en la matrícula de mi esposo está la dirección de la casa donde nosotros estamos. Entonces me pongo a pensar, o sea, tanto es el coraje hacia nosotras. El Señor se lo dijo a mi hija en el funeral. A mi hija le dijo, oiga, mis amigos pueden despedirse de mi papá. Y el Señor lo único que le dijo, no, dice, porque tus amigos, ustedes no tienen amigos. En 2 meses sus amigos se fueron. Familia no tienes más hermanos. Tu mamá no tiene más hermanos. Entonces imagínense ¿cómo se podría decir? El coraje, la cobardía del Señor para ponerse a tratar de decirle eso a una niña de tan solo 7 años. Yo pienso que otra persona en su lugar hubiera tratado de acercarse más a la niña.
No, pues sí.
Que yo tengo entendido que es la única hija de mi esposo, es el único recuerdo vivo que vamos a tener de él.
Yeah, we're talking about Elias, the street vendor who was killed. His dad, who he had no relationship with, he came and took over the funeral and had no heart. Didn't even ask how Sammy, his only daughter, was doing. Entonces él nunca le importó. Y esta persona, pues, Tiene un corazón inicuo, no sé qué es.
Negro.
Sí, y como yo digo, a veces la gente, la familia no les importa hasta que alguien fallece y quieren tratar como que fuera una mejor persona para esa persona y definitivamente no es justo. Y
Ahorita no me gusta ponerle atención a los chismes,
ujú,
pero pues el Señor se cansa de decir que Él nos enseñó a trabajar en la fruta, que Él nos compró la lonchera. El Señor no nos compró nada. Todo lo hemos comprado con nuestro esfuerzo. Imagínense ustedes, si el Señor era tan cobarde que dejó abandonada a su esposa y a sus hijos. Mi esposo tenía que mantener a su mamá. Mi esposo le ayudaba en todo a mi suegra.
wow.
O sea, mi suegro fue uno de tantos cobardes que hay en el mundo que dijo, yo ya me traje una esposa nueva, la de allá que se quede tirada. Yo no voy a mantenerla. Es el motivo también por el que mi esposo se alejó de su papá, porque él le dijo, pues tienes que mantener a mi mamá y a mi hermano. Y el Señor le dijo, no, dice, ellos que se rasquen con sus propias uñas. Entonces, si fue capaz de no apoyar a su esposa todo el tiempo que lo dejó, es imposible sacarle sangre a esa piedra.
Y también él trató de quitarle los carros, ¿verdad? Quería intentar tomarse control de lo que escuchamos.
Algo así fue lo
Sí.
que yo también escuché, pero pues ahí le tocó topar con pared porque pues
Sí.
todos los carros están a mi nombre.
Sí. Wow, qué tristeza, como le digo, lo estoy viendo otra vez con Enki Boys, que la familia, la mamá y su hermano que no tuvieron parte de su vida, pues la gente no entiende que un hombre o una mujer ya digamos, que ya tiene familia y tiene niños, esa es su familia, esa es la prioridad. Y esta gente, si tuviera el poder, digamos, este señor, él le hubiera venido y le hubiera quitado todo y no le hubiera importado.
Incluso también me tocó escuchar eso de la cuenta de GoFund.
Ujú,
Me habló una de mis cuñadas. En lugar de preguntarme cómo está la niña
ujú.
o cómo estás tú, por ser cortés. No, solo me dijo que esa cuenta de dinero, que su papá era un viejo, que su papá esto. En lugar de enfocarse cómo estaba mi hija, empezó a la avaricia, a lo material.
Wow. Y puede decir el nombre del señor si quiere para que la gente sepa.
Ya lo dije hace un momento,
Sí.
pero con todo gusto lo vuelvo a
Sí.
repetir. El señor se llama Florentino
Ujú.
Rosas. Cuando lo vean, grítenle cobarde, viejo, pocos pantalones, porque de verdad que una persona como esa no merece respeto.
Ujú.
Porque pues si no pudo mantener a su esposa, imagínense, porque va a mantenerme a mí o va a mantener a mi hija. Yo no necesito nada del Señor.
Sí.
Como les digo, el Señor se llama Florentino Rosas.
Ahorita
Uno de tantos cobardes que hay en el mundo.
tal vez el peor.
Buchenlo cuando pasen por donde venda. Porque pues no, yo pienso que al menos de mi hija y de mí no creo que ese señor tenga respeto.
Sí, no, para nada. Sí, yo lo vi también en el funeral. Hay gente que está preguntando porque no tomamos este tema para finalizar. Están preguntando qué es lo que pasó con Elías. Solo si usted quiere hablar de esos detalles sobre dónde estaba usted ese día, cómo usted, qué es lo que pasó, si usted quisiera hablar de eso, o podemos dejarlo para
De lo que pasó el 4 de agosto.
el 4 de agosto.
Nos levantamos como todos los días, fuimos a comprar fruta. Nosotros salimos para Los Ángeles a las 5.
Porque ustedes dos eran vendedores
Ya,
ambulantes,
exacto,
pero vendían, uno
uno
vendía aquí, otro vendía aquí.
Exacto,
Ajá.
estábamos, ahora sí que teníamos, a Dios
Separados.
gracias, 2 negocios. Él vendía en un lugar, yo vendía en otro lugar. Nos levantamos como todos los días. Fuimos a comprar nuestra fruta, regresamos, empezamos a pelar la fruta, preparamos, fuimos a dejar a mi hija a la escuela. Mentira, estoy mintiendo. Samantha estaba de vacaciones. Entonces yo le dije a mi hija ese día, le digo, mam, le digo, ¿por qué no te quedas aquí conmigo? Y me dice, no, yo me voy con mi papi porque mi papi me compró una hamburguesa y porque llega Don Tony y ya se fue con su papá. Entonces, así continuó mi día. Mi hija me llama a las 6:03 de la tarde. De verdad que yo pensé que el que me estaba llamando era mi esposo, porque es en el momento el que me llama, el que él recoge su carrito y me dice, hey, ¿a qué horas voy a ir por ti? Entonces ya luego le decía, no, pues baja el carrito y vienes por mí. Entonces, pues ella me llama y me dice, mami, ven rápido, mi papá, le dispararon. Entonces lo único que yo hice fue cerrar e irme para allá. Lamentablemente cuando yo llegué ahí, yo ya no lo encontré. Nada más estaba mi hija, la había detenido un vecino. Y los sheriffs me preguntaron quién era yo. Ya le dije que era su mamá. Y de ahí me fui para el hospital. Entonces lamentablemente a mi esposo ya no pude encontrarlo con vida. Cuando salieron los cirujanos, simple y sencillamente me dijeron, ¿sabe qué? Lo sentimos mucho, no pudimos hacer nada por su esposo. Y yo le dije a ella, le digo, vete a hacer tu trabajo, regrésate y ayúdalo a que regrese. Lamentablemente ya no se pudo, no pudieron hacer nada. Me explicaron que él perdió mucha sangre. Y esperaron a que yo me tranquilizara. La única persona que estaba conmigo en esos momentos era mi amiga, mi mejor amiga. Entonces ella estuvo ahí desde el principio, nunca me soltó. Ella estuvo ahí conmigo. Entonces yo le llamé a mis compadres y les dije que lo que había pasado con mi esposo. También llegaron ellos. Cuando ellos llegaron, yo entré al cuarto a ver a mi esposo. Pues se podría decir que vienen los reproches en esos momentos. Viene el por qué a nosotros. Yo perdí a mi papá en la edad de 4 años. De la misma forma, lamentablemente. Entonces, lo único que hice fue mirar al cielo y preguntarle a Dios por qué a mi hija lo mismo que yo ya había vivido.
Wow.
Soy fuerte por ella. Por ella estoy echándole ganas. Estoy tratando de salir adelante. Tratando de controlar emociones que tengo en mí. Pero pues, no, lamentablemente le digo, ya no lo pude ver. Ya nomás lo miré 2 veces. Pude entrar, la primera vez no me dejaron entrar a verlo, estar adentro con él. La segunda sí, pude entrar y pude tocarlo. Te das cuenta lo vulnerable que es uno en esos momentos.
Es inexplicable. Esto fue un intento de robo.
Ya, quisieron robarle.
¿Y cuántas veces le pegaron? ¿Fue una vez?
Creo que fue 2 veces.
2 veces. Pegaron 2 veces. No hay palabras en situaciones de estas aquí. Yo sé que es algo inexplicable, como le digo, y nosotros estamos aquí por ustedes. Cualquier cosa. Y este año va a ser muy interesante porque ahora con el nuevo sheriff yo le prometo que vamos a... Y que pues ellas están aquí pidiendo ayuda del público. Están aquí para hablar con ustedes que están escuchando. Si ustedes saben información sobre lo que pasó en agosto 4 del año pasado en Gardena, en la Rosecrans y la Main, enfrente de un Banco de América, hay que buscar justicia porque esto le puede pasar a otra persona. Estamos aquí en un show del barrio, pues aquí en Hoodstocks, y aunque lo que pasó le pasó a una persona inocente. Esto le llamamos algo que no es jugar por las reglas. Aunque estés en barrio, aunque estés en cualquier tipo de negocio, eso no se hace, especialmente a una persona vulnerable, como un vendedor ambulante. Definitivamente, si alguien sabe información, por favor, hablar, porque aquí está la esposa, aquí está la hija, pidiendo ayuda del público porque el gobierno, los sheriffs no han hecho su trabajo como tienen que hacer. Pues le quiero dar muchas gracias a Adriana. Yo sé que usted es muy fuerte. Sammy, you're super strong. I look up to you. You're the smartest 7-year-old I know. So I'm looking forward to seeing you grow, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna put our working hats on this year, okay? It's not over. So muchas gracias, Adriana. Muchas gracias, Sammy.
Gracias
So we're
a
gonna
ustedes.
take a little break. We'll come back with immigration attorney Cynthia Santiago.
Looking for some good quality cannabis, and I mean killer quality cannabis, hit up the folks at Killer Kush. They specialize in bringing you the best quality available from OG to exotic. They got it all, baby. Hit them up at killerkushcali@gmail.com or tap in with them on IG at killerkush__420 to find a location near you. If you're local in LA area, you can also find them here in the heart of East Los Angeles, LA Exotics. East LA Exotics. East LA Exotics, and they're located at 6009 East Olympic Boulevard. And, of course, baby, you know what to do, East Los. Today's podcast is also brought to you by your one-stop shop for all your bakery and restaurant equipment needs. Home-based to wholesale, commercial, bakeries, new and used equipment. You can follow them on Instagram at Origin Bakery Equipment LLC, at Origin Bakery Equipment LLC, or you can pull up on them in the city of South El Monte at 10441 Rush Street, South El Monte, California, baby. Okay. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Microsoul Mushroom Booster. Lift the fog, come back into the light. If you're having difficulty from day to day trying to focus on simple tasks, bigger products, let the Microsoul Mushroom Booster come and save you, baby. Our booster is powered by lines made in 5 other mushrooms. Take a few drops for clarity. Take a few more for harmony. Take even more, and you're on your way to remodeling your brain's wiring. Make sure to read and follow the recommended dosages on the bottle. This functional mushroom tincture can be safely stacked to your microdosing regimen for a precision boost. And check it out. Since you are a supporter of Hood Stocks, use promo code HOOD25 for 25% off. www.canacomforts.com.
All right, cool. All right, welcome back, everyone. We are on Hood Stocks, and want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Stizzy. So make sure you support that. If you like to toke Stizzy, shout out to Stizzy, which is our sponsor. Here we go. We have another special segment. We have Cynthia Santiago. She's an immigration attorney. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Cynthia Santiago. I'm a little bit ronca, but I'm here just really want to just talk to everybody about the importance of, bridging the gap with the community and having people out there that will support the community legally through legal access.
Definitely. So we'll start off with what city did you grow up in?
So I grew up on the west side before gentrification hit my community, Pico neighborhood in Santa Monica. And I grew up during the time where the police was constantly trying to intimidate the community, the brown and black folks to leave.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And so growing up in that time period, also there was rent hikes, there was constant development, real estate people coming in and buying out the community of color owners. So a lot of people started moving more to Inglewood, to Lawndale areas.
I see. And that's where you grew up, and that's where you...
Yeah, so I grew up in it's basically between the railroad tracks and Pico Boulevard, and there was just a community of probably like 14 blocks where most of the people of color that were renters lived.
So that's definitely the heart of the hood. So it's pretty amazing how you ended up becoming an immigration attorney. What was your first inspiration? How old were you when you first knew that you wanted to be a lawyer?
So I was 9 years old when my parents get a call that my brother got arrested. And my brother is in the jail. He grew up in the community in the hood there, and his friends were from the neighborhood. So he was in jail. He was facing robbery charges. He was 18 years old, and, my parents were trying to figure out what to do. I was 9 years old when I basically experienced firsthand the legal system.
Right.
And being 9 years old, then you also participate, in our immigrant parents' communities. You always have that child that's always there to kind of listen. I didn't have to interpret much, but I did have to listen and figure out what was being said between attorneys and public defenders and bail and things like that. I had to pay attention. So it kind of changed my focus on what it was, what involved the criminal justice system, wrongful misidentification of people, wrongful arrest. My brother ended up with his co-defendants, which are his friends.
Yeah.
They ended up going to trial on this case because some people had prior records. My brother was 18, but he had no priors. And he was facing 2 strikes under the California 3 strikes law.
Wow.
They ended up going to trial. misidentification issues, all that went out, and
What's that? What's misidentification for the
just
people that know?
so just that you have the people that are claiming they were robbed, whatnot, and they just are taken to the neighborhood where the homies hang out. They pull these guys out and they just have them, line up right there. Are these the people? And then they stick with that, even though there was like conflicting other stories that were said.
Right.
So they had some evidence that they were at another place. They were not near where the robbery supposedly occurred.
Wow.
It was all played out. Public defenders, every time my brother wanted to talk to a public defender, it was in court, in the hallway, 15 minutes before court started.
Yeah.
So seeing all these things happen and just not being able to do much, because private attorneys quoted my family $40,000 to represent them in trial.
Wow.
And again, because of everything with the politics of the other people that were involved in the case, that
Right.
they had to go through with the whole case because everyone has to be, in trial at the same time. And I think all those factors obviously led to my brother's wrongful incarceration.
Wow. Did he end up doing a long time or?
No, because he didn't have a record.
Yeah.
I mean, not a long time. I mean, he got 3 years compared to the 6 and the 9 that the other friends did, but
Okay.
he got 2 strikes. And so that was, 18 years old with 2 strikes.
It's like almost a life sentence right there.
It's pretty much, what basically impacted what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Wow. And where's your brother at now? Is he?
He's out.
He's good?
I mean,
Okay.
he pretty much went through the Wasco, the Jamestown, being a kid, having to go with my parents 5-hour, 4-hour drives to go visit him, see him for the short visits. All of that was very impacting on my life. I mean,
Yeah.
you start to see, why are there only brown people and black folks here visiting their families? And like, people were asking for rides. They couldn't get up there. Like, why are the prisons so far away from where people live?
Right.
Like, just so many things were exposed that I just needed to, to really focus on becoming an attorney for the community.
So it was that sense of helplessness as a kid that, it's must have been very uncomfortable that, you felt the need to help people. And so was it fresh off of high school that you went straight to studying for law?
So with law school, you have to you do undergrad and then you go to law school.
Right.
So I did my best in middle school, obviously high school, to get into college. I ended up in a program that helps first generation students of color
Okay.
who are willing to go to school out of California, out of the local area. And you're willing to go to these random schools, but they're going to pay for everything. Got 4 years full scholarship in a school in Connecticut.
Oh, wow. So you went to Connecticut.
Yes.
That's close to New York.
Yes.
That's East Coast. Okay.
Yes.
And you went out there for how long?
For 4 years.
4 years. Wow. How was that, being away from LA? And
I was probably one of 10 Mexican American students. I mean, I'm Guatemalan too, but
Yeah.
predominantly Mexican. There was no Guatemalans, in my opinion, that were out there. Most of the students there were like from New York, Dominican, Puerto Rican, which was great for me because then I was exposed to a different community. Yeah, but also isolating. Had to do work study. We don't have those funds. Kids go out to school, college. All they got to worry about is school. You have to worry about how are you going to get back home? How are you going to pay for that flight?
yeah.
How are you going to sustain yourself while you're in school?
And at that moment, you were studying immigration already, or were you studying something different?
At that point, when you're an undergrad, you pretty much want to do something that's either writing intensive, reading intensive to prepare you for law school.
Okay.
So I was in a multidisciplinary honors program. Like I just couldn't not do well because I had this great opportunity.
Right.
So I really had to focus on getting into some of those harder programs.
Gotcha. When you initially went to school, or when you were a kid, specifically want to do immigration, or was it
No,
criminal justice?
I always
Or-
wanted to do criminal defense work. I was always thinking I would be a public defender, and I would be a different public defender.
Yeah. Why is the system built like that? Because when I got my felony, they gave me 2 minutes to make a decision. She told me, and I wasn't born here. I was, I had a fear because to me it was very important. I was facing 6 years back in 2014, and to me getting deported was like getting life, and that was messed up. That they gave me 2 minutes. A lady, she came out and she told me, "Do you want to take a deal, or do you want to go to trial?" Why is it like that?
You're talking about a public entity. The system perpetuates the system. It just is a cycle, right? So I do know that there's public defenders that have good hearts and they want to do this for the goodness of being able to help a mass amount of people, but you're never going to get that change in the justice system until we break down some of these laws, until we tear down the prison industrial complex, until we really get into what is the racism behind the laws and the ways that they're treated, to one group of people versus another, and your access to the rights that you should be advised on your rights. You should know what you're getting into, what you're going to plead to. You should understand that, even the probation system is inherently going to perpetuate the same things where you keep getting violations. So I just think that the system was built the way that they want it to run, which is to keep Black and brown folks in the system.
And a lot of people don't think that still exists till this day. What do you think about that?
I mean, you just look at the numbers, look at the statistics, look at the people that are in the prison system. And like I said, when I was growing up, then I started to see more and more of my friends in the school to prison pipeline. Yeah. They're in middle school, they start getting suspensions, they start getting put into the juvenile system.
Can you explain what the school to prison pipeline is for folks that are listening?
The school to prison pipeline is just the way that the school system is built to track students. Some students are going to end up being into getting into the system where they're like either going to go to juvie, they're going to be disciplined more, they're going to be suspended, expelled from school. So you're just on a one-way track there. And then obviously, if it's a school that wants to track students into college, right, and into having those options of going to college, then, they're going to be put in this other tracking system. So the school to prison pipeline, you're looking at the suspension expulsion rates, you're looking at how some schools have police officers or security or officers that are part of, the system, how people get then put onto probation when they're juveniles. And it's just a cycle. Yeah,
I was just talking to my fiance and we were talking about, expelling kids or suspending kids. Like, is that even, what is that? Like, because some kids who get in trouble, right, they get suspended, they kind of welcome that. They're like, oh, okay, cool, I get 5 days off of school. And then they get accustomed to that. And then the way the schools are also set up, the cafeteria. Because the first time I went to jail, that's very similar too. They have the cool guys on the table here. You have the ones who have been there for a long time. And especially how they target us minorities. During your trajectory, when did you transition to immigration law?
Once I got through college, undergrad, and I knew I was going to go straight to law school, I came back to LA because I couldn't be in the East Coast anymore. It just was not the life for me. Yeah. And then I got back to I keep looking at you, but I'm like, look, I got back to LA, and I started working with an attorney that is a criminal and immigration attorney. Okay. And some of my assignments were to go to the Consulado de Mexico, to sit at the Consulado for 6 hours and talk to families back to back to back to back and basically take down their intakes. Then he would call them and give them an assessment and whatnot. But hearing the stories, the same cycle. They were in Santa Ana criminal court because of a no license ticket, a warrant. Yeah. Got popped, went into the jail system. ICE picks them up and transfer them to ICE, and now they're getting deported for no license. Wow. For other offenses, right? So we're talking about how for a long time, ICE was just sitting there and they had a little desk. And so anyone that didn't have status was just handed off to them. And just getting that system of like, why were they in jail? Because they didn't have proper criminal defense, because they weren't advised, because the public defender or whoever represented them was like, plead guilty, you're going to come out. No, you're not going to come out because you're going to go to ICE.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell them that. So it was really frustrating. And I was like, wow, then I got to do both. I have to do both if I'm going to impact the community.
Definitely goes hand in hand. Question, this is something genuine. Does the sanctuary state law, does that help in any sort of way here in California?
It's helped a little bit. I mean, the efforts have been great to get them out of like, they used to be in county and they're out of county, but that doesn't stop them from going to your house and showing up. That doesn't stop them from using all their biometrics and their background records checks that they have. They have access to a lot of information.
So it's still...
They could track somebody down if they wanted to. But I mean, I think that the administration is what is a little bit more helpful now, because there's opportunities to stop a deportation, to argue for discretion, to say this person's lived here for a long time, their family's here, they don't have serious crimes. Then you have a little more of an argument now.
How long have you been an immigration attorney now?
Since 2012.
2012, so it's almost 11 years.
Almost 11 years.
What has that experience been like? What have you experienced so far? What do you summarize as far as being an immigration attorney for 11 years?
I've definitely focused on being an attorney that's in the trenches, right? So I want to be the attorney, or for a long time I wanted to be the attorney. So I was in Tijuana. I was in the border Tijuana, where they had the folks that were in the caravana, for example.
Yeah.
And I'm down there and I'm talking to people about their rights. I'm telling them, this is what asylum looks like. This is what happens when you're detained, when you go to the system, when you're being processed. Sometimes you split families. If this person has a record, they're not going to be able to just walk out. They're going to have to be detained for a bit or bail. So I wanted to be that attorney that's in the trenches, that's doing the community work.
Hands-on,
because I have a community labor, community activist background. I've been always trying to organize youth centers and things like that in my past. So I wanted to use that tool. I'm also the attorney that goes to detention centers, and I'm talking to folks and I'm like, this is what your case looks like. Don't hire an attorney unless you're willing to be here for 9 months to a year, unless you're willing to understand. Or I tell somebody, please don't sign your deportation. Please don't. You qualify for this stuff. Please don't sign it. I know it's easy to just sign off and leave because you're just so tired of being here. I know, not it's easy, but it seems easy in your head to sign off and just call it and be done and give up your rights. But I'm like, you have all these rights, and I explain the case, and then a few months later, we get them bond and they're home with their family, and now they've been with their family for years.
Wow.
So that's the kind of work I want to do.
Why is it that, because I worked at USC on a project studying folks that have been deported. Why is it that there's some situations where people are still here, like you mentioned, and then there's some people who literally have nothing? I ran across someone who had no record, no priors, just because they had gotten a tattoo that was similar to a gang that was in the neighborhood. They just got deported from that. And then you have other folks who, why is it so?
I mean, these cases are so intricate though. Yeah. A lot of people are always like, I came in and my friend fixed, and I want to know why I can't fix. And I'm like, I have a 30 question, intake process because it's just something small could change everything. But what happens to a lot of folks that I meet is that they came to the U.S., they laid their foundation. At one point or another in their life, they went back, and then they came back and they got detained because after 1997, when the laws became much harsher, there's consequences, there's expulsions and deportations that they could do at the border. CBP was given that authority to deport somebody straight from the border. No longer see a judge, you could just get deported. Expedited removal, that's what it's called.
Wow, and that's still intact till this day?
Yes. So there's a lot of things that one detail that could just, be the difference between somebody's case and another. But there's a lot of things that go into actually assessing like why this person can stay and why this person can't.
Oh. Before we get to the street vendors, I had a question regarding the detention centers. There was kids being detained in Pomona, kids being detained in Long Beach. We never heard what happened. There was not a lot of transparency. What happens to these kids?
So generally, the child is either presented or detained at the border, and then they do an interview, right? And so the interview determines that they were not with their family member. They were with like an aunt or an uncle or some random person. Then they're automatically sent to an ORR, which is the Office of Refugee Resettlement. It's like a shelter, pretty much. Wow. These are the shelters, right? There used to be smaller shelters, but because there was a large number, then they ended up using these convention centers and these places that, in Pomona and Long Beach. So they go to the shelter, and then because it's a whole process, so they have social workers, they have trafficking folks, like trafficking organizations. They go through this vetting process where they have to figure out who the family is.
I see.
And that's where it takes 6 weeks, months to find the family. Some of the kids can't even say where their family is. Some of them don't speak Spanish. Some of these kids are indigenous children.
Right.
I work a lot with the indigenous org, that Cielo. They do interpreting services.
Nice.
And they were brought in because a lot of the kids come from indigenous communities and nobody was able to communicate with them.
Wow. And one last thing, what about the missing children that have been detained and then there's just no accountability from the government?
So the government,
what do you think happens to them?
Yeah, so the government uses, trafficking. Like they're protecting the kids from traffickers, from trafficking and all that. So that's really what it is that they are always going to have, some type of authority to not give any information about them under that guise, right? The same way that ICE says, some of their operations are very confidential and they can't reveal why.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a system that also protects its own. And, I think that they shuffled a lot of children and they messed up somewhere.
Where do you think they ended up at, these kids that went missing?
I mean, at some point we were looking at kids that were at the border in Tijuana, for example, were like transferred all the way up north to close to Washington. Place like random. They have these locations you're not allowed to know where it is. The family, the one person that when they release them is only allowed to go. They're not allowed to bring an attorney with them. Things like that. It's just very
seems like they don't have a lot of rights too when it comes to that. It seems like it kind of turns into like Guantanamo Bay or like a CIA operation.
I mean, yeah, we've worked with a lot of situations where we try to support the families and be able to like help them get the process done because it's very confusing. But to some degree too, it's like they don't respect that the person wants to have an attorney helping them or guide them or speaking on their behalf, and they expect these families to know enough of their rights when they don't.
Has there ever been cases where people have gotten deported for something maybe serious and they were able to come back legally? Is that really rare? Or
the most of the cases that we're able to spare are cases like the person is picked up by ICE in the morning, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and then the person is being transferred down through the bus or a van or whatnot. And then we're able to put in a stay. It's a last minute stay request, a motion to reopen some type of, legal document so that then they could return them. And then we've had people get all the way to the border and then they turn the bus back and bring them back.
I see. Okay.
But cases where somebody's been deported, only if the attorney has been able to reopen a criminal conviction, for example, if they were convicted of
Yeah.
something that made them deported, and then we're able to bring them back through that method.
Wow.
But most of the time, we also find that folks that have been deported attempt to come back after the deportation, and then it's
Kind of messes things up right there.
yeah.
Damn. You've been helping street vendor victims with U visa. This is an important question that I get all the time. What does it take to qualify for a U visa? And first, what is a U visa?
Okay, so U visa is a process that Congress started where they only issued 20,000 U visas fiscally, so yearly, right?
That's okay.
20,000. But the wait time, there's at least 300,000 to 400,000 people waiting.
Wow.
Does that make sense? So you're
Yeah.
we're talking about a 5 to 6 year backlog
Damn.
from cases. So Congress thought, okay, let's do this program where if someone cooperates with authorities, reports a crime, and it's part of the 28 or so qualifying crimes, then we can grant them this work permit.
And one of those qualifying crimes, does it really have to, this is an important question I get all the time, does it have to be serious? I mean, does the person have to get hit, or what's
So it's crazy because robbery is not on the list. If they're robbed, it's not on the list.
Okay.
But if in the robbery they're hurt and then it's a felonious assault, then we make that argument that it's similar to felonious assault.
Okay.
It's like a serious assault. Attempted murder, that's part of it.
okay?
Most of the time people think of a U visa when they're thinking about domestic violence.
And that doesn't qualify?
It does.
Oh, it does?
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. So
Okay.
most of the time people just think U visa, domestic violence. But there's like blackmail, there's witness tampering, there's extortion, there's kidnapping, felonious assault, and false imprisonment too.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot. But the injury could be mental or physical.
Okay.
And the hardest part for me is that once we look at the report and we get it signed and we submit it to immigration, it's a wait.
Wow.
4 to 6 years. When I first was doing them back in 2013, the wait was probably a year. But somewhere between Trump administration, I think a lot of the community started rallying our community that like, it doesn't matter if the crime was 15, 20 years ago. It doesn't matter, like we started encouraging folks to look at their rights to see if they could apply for something.
Okay.
And I think that's what also led to
The backlog.
a lot of people applying for relief.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now it's a 4 to 5 year average wait.
Yeah. And then you get a work permit, but you don't get residency yet. You have to then
Go through that
wait
process.
another 3 years. Once you get the official you wait 3 years to become a resident.
And then when you have a work permit, you can't visit home, right?
You cannot go
Can't visit
back
home.
technically, but some people do leave, and then you have to go through the whole embassy process and hope that they come back through petitions and waivers. Yeah, it's not recommended.
Wow, that's insane. Yeah, I didn't know about the backlog of 200,000. Is there any way that Congress can extend that number?
They would have to make a law, or they have to, they'd have to vote on it and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I mean, we haven't even seen Congress move on anything else.
Yeah, it's so divided. It's so 50-50 right now everywhere. That's insane.
20 plus years or something since the last time they actually did a significant change in
Yeah.
immigration law. And I've just been seeing a trend of worse and worse situations. 1996 was one of the worst pieces of law that came in.
Wow.
And that was the one that basically said if you come in and you leave the country after living here a year without, if you come in without lawful entry and you leave, then you're subject to 10 years where you cannot come back to the United States. You can't come back to the U.S. for 10 years. And obviously people came back and then I can't help them fix.
What's the point of that when they because I had a couple cousins that had to leave, I think, for like 5 years. Why is that? Is that some sort of punishment?
Punishments.
Punishments.
Yeah.
Like a sentence.
1996 became punitive. oh, we're going to stop people from coming in and out of the country. Let's punish them 10 years, give them a ban.
And this was under the Clinton administration.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a diehard, like, the administration is just a change of the face, but the policy behind it, the way that they look at brown folks, black folks is
both the same. Wow. How many cases do you handle, or your office handling right now? Like, do you have a lot of cases that you sometimes have to handle?
I mean, I've approximately in the past years that I've done, I think we're at like over 1,000 cases that we've handled.
Oh, wow.
But those cases are either already approved, already closed up and whatnot. So I think with the work that my husband and I have been doing in the community is that what we've always tried to do is go into the community, talk about what your case is about, what your rights are. And for the most part, I'm telling people, be careful, because you're going to find someone that's going to tell you have a case, take thousands and thousands of dollars from you and do nothing for you. So for the most part, we're actually advising people, like, you don't have a case because of this issue with the law.
Yeah.
If this happens to you, like if at one point you become a victim of a crime, then you should have a reevaluation, or if they change the laws. But we're usually advising people to protect themselves because there's a lot of shady notarios, attorneys, all that.
Yeah. So basically workshops and educating the people. That's great. That's really good work that you're doing. And we were talking earlier. I've met your husband, small circle, through Smooth Hustle. He used to, or I don't know if he still does, make music with Baldacci, which actually has been on the show here before, and Guns Lozano. So shout out to Baldacci, Guns Lozano, and Smooth Hustle that worked with your husband. So that's amazing work. Other than helping folks on immigration, do you also do criminal as well, or?
For the past 10 years, I was what's known as crimmigration. Okay. Criminal immigration. Both. Crimmigration is the little area, like it's a specialized area, because you have to know how to defend somebody in criminal court so they won't have an immigration issue later on. I don't want them to go to ICE. I don't want them to try to deport this person.
Right.
I'm going to do what I can to stop that. I do a lot of work with like DACA recipients. Okay. End up getting DUIs. We try to reduce it to not have a DUI because they're not eligible for it.
Where do you think DACA is heading towards now? It's so unstable right now. Where do you think that's heading towards?
I mean, the decision is still in the Texas judge. We're not seeing our Congress administration really move on it. I don't think the program's going to last.
Wow.
But I always tell my DACA recipients, like, always pursue your other options. If you are able to do advanced parole, then try to get that trip in and try to, then come in with the legal visa stamp and then go through your marriage. And I've helped a lot of the DACA recipients that are now even like citizens because of that process.
Also, DACA recipients have been able to become citizens?
When they marry a U.S. citizen and, they have this advanced parole stamp and all that.
So that still helps. I heard from some reason that someone said that marrying someone, a citizen, doesn't really help anymore. Is that true, or?
There's a lot. Yeah, there's all these rumors and stuff. Yeah, I always tell people, always talk to an attorney. Get your own personal advice because, like I said, that one detail could totally change.
So does it help marrying a citizen?
It depends on their case. Yeah, it depends on their case. It depends what route you want to go through. Right. I mean, DACA, for example, has been one of the ways we've been able to get people their status. Wow. Okay. So DACA, advanced parole, and then when they come back with the legal stamp, they're able to get their residency if they're married to a U.S. citizen.
But it helps. Let's say if it's any type of case, has it ever not helped someone for being married?
I mean, it really does depend because, some people, and it's sad because some people call me and they're like, I'm married to a U.S. citizen. I have my kids here. I pay all my taxes. I work. But I'm like, you came in, came out. You were caught. You have, this history. You can't. You still have this castigo, what it's called. Wow. So you get what I'm saying? Like, there's things that we would like to also act as, like, they're contributory to that. But it's way more complicated with the law that it's in place. The laws in place is very much, we're going to punish people. We're going to punish people for coming in and out of the country. We're going to punish people for coming into the country.
Right. Do you have any advice, like, for the homies who are listening, like homies who are in the hood, maybe sometimes not doing the best things? Because I remember someone told me something and actually stuck with me. That was actually an immigration attorney, and I'm not sure if this is true or not. But she said, don't get involved with these three things. She said, drugs, domestic violence, and anything involved with prostitution. Is that true? Is that those three things that actually can really affect, let's say, someone who's undocumented?
And well, I would add, and don't ever say you're a U.S. citizen on any documents.
Don't ever say that you're not U.S. citizen?
That you are a U.S. citizen when
okay.
you're not, because that will get you banned for life.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, even, so if you're undocumented.
And you go to your job and you fill out this INA, you're like, whatever, I'll just fill it out, put U.S. citizen.
Really?
You're banned for life.
You get deported for that, or
you're not eligible to apply for anything at that point, unless maybe the U visa, because the U visa is pretty good to
right.
Pardon deportations, to pardon people with crimes, all that.
That's good advice. That's insane.
But it's that one, because I get that a lot from a lot of like young folks, and like they're always like, oh, well, I just put U.S. citizen on this job, and I'm like, it's not good. And
do they go through that? They go through all your work records?
A lot of the work records, they get sent. They're put in the federal system, the I-9, all those things are sent. And the way that immigration has been moving, the government moves, it's like the surveillance. A lot of things are becoming now records. Like a lot of people that had crimes from a long time ago, then maybe they have their residencia and they're coming through the airport. Now they're able to spot those things because of the advances. They're pumping so much money into the biometrics checks. They're able to go back to records from a long time ago.
That's
same
insane.
thing with the work stuff, employment stuff, is that because these things get uploaded into the federal system and whatnot, or they report it, then these things can come back easily.
So even if you have a work permit, U.S. resident, never sign anything that makes you...
I would just say, if you are not a U.S. citizen, do not put that in any form of writing. A lot of people also said, oh, I used to cross all the time using like my ID and said I'm a U.S. citizen. And I'm like, no.
Okay.
Yeah, banned for life. So
wow. Okay.
I always tell people like that your best bet to figure out where your status is to talk to an attorney.
Someone's asking, when you go to county, should they say they were born here?
So thankfully ICE is out of county.
Yeah.
They should be out of county, but that's a declaration of U.S. citizenship. That gets you banned for life for being able to fix.
And there's no backtracking for that.
Because if, like, say you get arrested, right?
Yeah.
And the cops you said you are a U.S. citizen, and then the cops put it down, that gets sent to the Cal DOJ, the Department of Justice. And now it's on your Department of Justice file. It says citizenship, USA, Mexican. And so if you're ever trying to fix, you're just, everything gets tracked at some point.
And that goes the same as if you're not a U.S. citizen, don't vote also, right? That's another big mistake you can do. Okay. Yeah. Any other advice that you would have for people?
Well, I was really, when Adriana was talking, right? And like, she was talking about how people always try to lowball street vendors. And they always try to, they don't want to support small businesses and whatnot. And I feel like sometimes I get that with attorneys of color, women of color, people of color attorneys that have a background that grew up with immigrant parents, that grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment with tons of people in it. You know what I'm saying? Like we have these experiences. My brother went to prison. My brother almost died in a shooting, got shot 2 times when I was 15. And so I always say, like, you want an attorney that actually understands where you're coming from. That can be a person that empathizes with you, that an attorney that will take on your case and think like, this is my brother, or this is my dad, versus somebody that's gonna just like sign the contract, let me fill out paper, and let me just go to court, do whatever and call it a day. Like a lot of these attorneys, women attorney of color, I feel like a lot of us too, like we always get people, los señores sometimes, usted es la abogada. Yeah, sí, soy la abogada. they don't want to be talked down to, or they don't, like not talked down to, but they don't want to be talked to. Like, they go, señor, por favor, like, ya no esté manejando y tomando.
Yeah.
No van a deportar.
Yeah.
Es que, and like, it's like nobody wants to really also support women of color.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of misogyny sometimes, right? It's a lot. That definitely needs to change in our culture sometimes.
But also just, like when you support brown, black women of color, men of color, attorneys that are actually also maybe have that background and understand where you're coming from, because they're going to take an emphasis on your case.
Definitely.
And, a lot of folks call me and they're like, I paid this attorney $10,000 y ni lo vi, solo su paralegal. Solo hablé con su like asistente or whatever. And I get it. Sometimes you're busy, but like if you never know who your attorney is, then that's not the attorney.
And
that
it's
you should get.
your company name. It's Law Office of Cynthia Santiago.
I go under Abogada Santiago on my
Santiago.
Instagram, on my Facebook, TikTok, all that. Abogada Santiago.
Okay. Yeah, someone was asking there.
Abogada Santiago.
One last question. Felons. Let's say felons who are undocumented, felons who are residents or work permit felons. If it's, I understand if it's violent, it's deportation, right?
Aggravated felony.
Aggravated felony. And if it's a non-violent felony, have you ever seen anyone become a citizen after being a non-violent felon?
We do help a lot of folks that have criminal history, but you want to have that person that does crimmigration, because then when I look at the criminal file, I can say, okay, this person is within the period. Okay, we can argue that it's not,
okay.
a crime.
So they still have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I would say get a consult.
Yeah.
Get a consult from someone that knows criminal and immigration law. But I also have found that in my work, I represent a lot of folks that are in prison, and they get parole granted. And when they're leaving to get transferred back down to wherever, the home that they're going to be at, because usually they end up at halfway homes and all that. ICE picks them up.
Damn.
Yeah, and there's a whole campaign about that. Please support that too. It's like trying to keep ICE out of the prisons and stop.
And even for like non-violent felons, they get swooped
well,
in?
it's most of the time it depends on the crime and the felony and whatnot. And so, I mean.
But for a non-violent felon who still has a chance.
Well,
asking for a friend, by the way.
Well, then he should get a consult. But that situation is heartbreaking because they've been in there for years, 10, 20 years, and then they end up in ICE and they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So I always do that too, where like families hire me and I go to the prison and I talk to them and I'm like, okay, let's look at your case. Let's see what relief you're going to have. Are you going to want to fight it? Because we can fight this. Or, actually this case is really hard. That you're going to have to reopen your old case, try to get that vacated. But you're going to be in custody during the time.
Yeah.
And then at least they know what they're going to say when they get to ICE and they know what to expect.
Okay.
So
that's very important, what they say when they're there, right?
Yeah, because sometimes a lot of folks think that they could just handle their hearings on their own. And then now you have a whole record of what they told the judge about. And sadly, immigration judges do not care how arrepentido you are. They do not care that you are remorseful. They do not care that you serve your time. They don't care about that. They care about what's the penal code and whether it matches up with the Immigration National Act code. So you have to basically... The judge in the immigration court is not going to look at your criminal case again, but for what were you convicted of. They don't care about the facts. They don't care about your...
Do they care if it's been a long time since it happened?
No, because 1993, there was another set of laws too that happened where aggravated felonies came in 96. They became worse.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So
okay, that's good to know.
Anytime you have an immigration history, and especially if you have crimes, get that looked at.
Definitely. Do we have time for calls? Yeah? Cool. So we're going to take some calls. We have Adriana here too, if you want to address Adriana. We have Cynthia. So we'll go ahead and take some calls before we finish this really good podcast. Thank you for the education, and hopefully people learned something new today. So we're gonna go on a quick break and then get ready so we can take some calls.
Oh,
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take some calls. So the number's up there. Yeah, it's 323-736-6498. Anyone's interested who has any questions or comments, you can call in now if you like. So we'll give that a moment.
I have a Spanish show on LA TV networks.
Okay.
And it's transmitted in LA and nationally. It's called Tribuna Jurídica, and we accept callers. We accept callers in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
They call the show live for an hour, and I go through different immigration questions and scenarios too.
Okay.
So if
That's
you
cool.
have like parents or family that speaks Spanish, they could always tune into Tribuna Jurídica on LA TV networks.
LA TV network. Okay. That's cool. Wow. Okay. So nobody has a question. I'm surprised the first time. Is the number right? So it's 323-736-6498. Don't be scared if you don't have a question. You can say a comment, give a shout out. Someone said, 323-736-6498. Someone said, how much taxes do street vendors pay? What about permits or rent? How about insurance for their employees? So how is it fair for someone doing it legal having to pay for all these taxes only to start? So, the Department of Public Health, they make it close to impossible for anyone to get permits if you don't have a lunch truck. That's one thing, a lot of people don't know. In-N-Out, Carl's Jr., a lot of restaurants that you see out there started off as street vendors. If you're really worried about taxes, I would say use that energy for Netflix, Amazon, these big corporations that pay zero federal taxes. Their goal is to have a brick and mortar. I know plenty of street vendors who started off as street vendors and now have brick and mortars. And yes, Adriana paga taxes. She was just telling me, she has to pay taxes. So, alguien dijo que los vendedores ambulantes no pagan taxes y que por qué es injusto para los que tienen negocio. ¿Qué piensa usted sobre eso?
Pues en mi persona no es así.
Uh-huh.
Yo hago impuestos. Es un requisito del Departamento de Salud para poderte dar un permiso de una lonchera.
Uh-huh.
Todos estos años que he estado aquí he hecho mis impuestos. Pago $1,200 de comisaría mes con mes.
Uh-huh.
No tengo aseguranza para empleados porque trabajo sola. Soy solo yo.
Yeah.
Y mis cuchillos, y la pala, y el exprimidor, y la fruta, y todo. Entonces no tengo aseguranza para empleados.
There you go.
Pero
Okay.
el tener un permiso con Health Department tiene muchos requisitos, como
Yeah.
lo dije hace un momento, muchas trabas, porque ellos te dicen, ok, yo te extiendo el permiso, y mucha gente se pone a especular. Entonces
Uh-huh.
sí, todas las loncheras que ustedes vean en la calle, todos pagamos un storage, una comisaría. Dependiendo del tamaño del vehículo es lo que te cobran.
Oh, there you have it. They do pay taxes. Okay, someone's gonna call me. All right. Hello, you're on Hood Stocks. What is your name?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, man? Thank you for taking my call. My name is Danny.
What's up, Danny?
I
What
got
city
a-
are you
a
calling
quick
from?
Question. I'm calling from Santana, brother.
Santana. What's up?
Yeah, I got a quick question for Mr. Santiago. My pops tried to pay his papers in the 80s, and I believe around the 89, 90s, he went to jail for a drug charge. I don't know if it's for sales or something, but he had some drugs. They popped him, and I guess they wanted to give him some prison time, but he had his papers. But instead of going to prison, he signed off to get deported to Mexico, and they took away his papers. This was maybe like 89, 90. Does he still have a chance of getting his papers? Do you think he has a case, or you got any type of advice?
Yeah, so what we normally do in situations like that is we look at the criminal conviction, and we see the criminal conviction if there's any way to vacate it. If he had any defenses. So we normally try to ask for the public defender's file. I'm not sure what county it was. Some counties destroy them. Some counties still have records from the 90s, 80s, and whatnot. So we end up getting the criminal file, seeing if a public defender has any notes or if private counsel has any notes, and then evaluate if it's even available. You know, if someone has like kilos and kilos of things, then it's a very difficult case to do. But I mean, we have to assess if there's a defense or not. If the person, the drug laws have changed, but unfortunately, and I have to tell people, marijuana is still not federally legal.
Correct.
And so somebody with more than a simple possession of marijuana can get deported. I've had people in proceedings, and
in California?
Yes,
wow.
anywhere. Yeah. So it's still like, and then especially when people say, "Oh, but I got a medical card," I was like, no. So it's just, you know, that's one thing, that drugs is part of that change that they did in the 90s. So we'd have to look at his criminal records. We have to see if he ever attempted to re-enter and got caught, because then when you have deportations, then it becomes more and more difficult. There is timing issues. And then when the person is outside of the country and they haven't come back, we want to make sure that we clear the record, the criminal record, because the embassies can also use something called reason to believe that they're a drug trafficker, and they don't need a conviction for that. They just need some history that they have had a drug case. And then that's what they use to deny it. So it's a hurdles. But it's always, I always tell families, like, I'd rather you make an informed decision if you want to go through those, knowing that it's hurdles versus like some attorney telling you, oh yeah, don't worry, it's gonna be a good case. We can do this. We make it happen, and then they popped you for $15,000 or 20. You know, it's crazy. I hear some crazy stories, and that's why it's so important for us to keep getting into the community and giving as many legal consults we can when we do community events.
That's great.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my dad was caught in, like I said, 89, 90 in Orange. But I think it was just a minor amount. It wasn't much.
Yeah.
A couple of baggies, but.
Well, always find me on Instagram or Facebook, Abogada Santiago, and then we'll send you a link. You schedule a consult, and if you have any of his case information, his case number, all of that stuff, then we'll go ahead and we'll see what pops up. But sometimes we end up having to request the whole record from the court and from the public defenders.
Sure. Thank you, Danny, for that call, and I hope it all works out for your dad. Thank you.
All right, man.
Have a good one.
Thank you very much, man. Have a good night.
Okay, so I think that's it. No hay más va a llamar. Pues le quería decir gracias, Adriana, por mandar su mensaje, y la gente escuchó, y pues vamos a estar ahí con el primer paso. So I ask you, everyone here, to send an email to the office of the new Sheriff Luna. Give him a call. Our next step will be also joining the LA County Board of Supervisors meeting, because we need to make some noise for this, to have that on their list, to find these people, to hold them accountable for what they did. And thank you so much, Cynthia Santiago. So make sure to find her, Abogada Santiago, on Instagram. Shout out to Lucky, shout out to K9, shout out to Frankie,